All right, Tim Patterson, thank you so much for joining us. You are the trade show guy. Thank you so much for dispensing some wisdom. And I think it's very timely that we're having this conversation because I've got 2 shows next week. I'm going to be at FinCon and Military Influencer Conference, and I'll have a small booth at each. And so really love to talk about how business owners can kind of up their game when they show up at their next conference or trade show.
Happy to be here, Josh. Really appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
So is being successful at a trade show all about your display, or is there much more to it?
Well, there's a lot to it. Display is important, but I think the key skill is how to interact with people. You can have a great booth, but if you don't have the right skills to approach people and talk to them, the booth will just, people will just keep walking on by. You can have kind of a not a great booth, but if you know how to interact with people and ask the right questions that pertain with what you're trying to get them to stop for, then I think that really helps and engages the conversation. You want to engage them on a proper level that is important to what you're trying to pitch there, what you're trying to sell. I think that's probably the key element.
So aside from being beautiful, what are some other traits that...
Well, I suppose that helps.
Because I don't know that I'm going to have much luck there. I'm not going to change my gender and not going to, but so, because I've walked down, past booths and, I'll get the guys like, hey, how you doing? And I've kind of already eyeballed their booth, and I'm not really in the market for what they. So what do you do?
Well, you want to qualify them first of all. You've got and if you have a trade show booth that actually has graphics that does part of that job with a bold statement or a great question, then that will help sort of qualify them already or disqualify them. But if they come up and you need to find out, A, are they interested in your business? B, are they a decision maker? C, can they afford it? And D, are they about ready to make a decision? So all of that you need to clarify and understand and ask those questions. Is this kind of thing you use in your business? Tell me about how this works in your business. Those types of questions are very critical. If your personality wants to kind of weave around it and talk a lot, but you still got to get those bits and pieces of information. Otherwise, you're wasting their time and your time because it's very chaotic. The trade show is just nuts, and especially in the bigger shows with thousands of people.
Wow. So, okay. So my company, so Up My Influence, we get business owners, we get them in the media. We're very good at it. We've got some great testimonials. We've had some great success with that. And for these 2 conferences, I'll have some signage, and in particular, I'm going to have a couple of tabletop signs that are going to really big, and they're going to say immediate media opportunities available. And then I've got a website address that I'd really love if I could get them to fill that out. Now, I think it's a good offer. I mean, most business owners want to be recognized for what they do. And so if I say, listen, whether or not we ever work together, we're putting together a database where reporters can actually find subject matter experts like yourself, and they'll quote you. And like I said, it's completely free of charge. Beyond that, what do you think I should try to do in terms of my conversations with them?
Well, gosh, there's so many different ways you can look at that. I think you need to find out specifically what they're interested in, what they do, how you can work with them, and then figure out what the next step is. We always try and teach people that it's great to have a conversation, but if there's going to be a next step, both parties really need to agree and understand what that step is. If that's a conversation a week down the line, if you're sending them a PDF of some sort, if they're having them sign up and you're going to clarify that with an email, both sides really need to know what that is, okay? So once you have that conversation, often I'll just pull out my phone and say, hey, I got a meeting time next Thursday at 3, can you book that? And, those types of things. So if you both know exactly what the next step is, I think that's very important.
How much coordinating do you think you get done on site versus hey, after this whole thing's done, why don't we get in touch next week and arrange something on the schedule? I find that I don't do well in terms of making too many plans at an event, because everybody, it's like at the same time that we're having this conversation, they're talking with 34 of the other people about what they might be able to work on together. So yes. I'd say, listen, let's we'll discuss it on email, figure it out.
Right. Yeah. So obviously you need to get the basics are your contact information, trade business cards, or have them fill out a form. Sometimes, if you have like an iPad or something that has a little subscription form to fill out, you can invite them to do that. But certainly, getting their contact information and making sure they have yours. And then, yes, you can write on the back of the card, they're interested in blank and we need to talk in about the next 3 weeks. Sometimes if it's urgent, maybe you're going to talk as soon as you get home from the show. So I think really a business card is the best way to do it. I still collect them by the hundreds, so
yeah,
the shows I've been at, and I call them back and, find out if they're interested in what I'm looking to pitch them with. So.
In terms of ROI, return on investment, why are trade shows a good use of time and effort?
Well, really, the big thing is that a trade show has a very, very focused audience. I think the stats are something like if you're doing sales calls and you're going one-to-one to these different places, it's $300 or $400 per call when everything is added up. When you're focused and your audience and you're buying and your decision makers are there at the show, that cost comes down a lot. You've got a lot of people coming to your booth. It's a very focused thing. Yes, it's expensive to get there, but think of how many different people are coming there, and the fact that probably 60 to 80% of them are decision makers. And if you have a chance to talk to them, there's a good chance, much better chance that you're going to do business, or at least start a warm relationship for the next conversation down the line.
What about being together in person? Why do you think that's, I agree. Like, I think, my stuff that I do in person first, it's just, even though we're doing so much business over the internet, I still think that, if you begin a relationship of being together physically, together in person, there's just so much. It's just such a great way to begin a relationship.
I think you hit it on the head. Years ago when I first got into this industry, the digital world was slowly coming around to it, and I heard stories about the virtual trade show is going to take over and trade shows will go away and all of that, but people like face-to-face meetings. They like touch. We are humans. We enjoy that touch. Yes, it's great. You and I are talking here, but we'd have a great time in person, sharing a beer and telling stories. This is different. Even though we're looking at each other in video. When you're person to person, it is very different, and I think it goes back to us being human. We like that touch, and trade shows are very good at that.
Yeah. What is the something that you see trade show exhibitors do, and it just, you shake your head and you be like, oh, what are they doing?
Well, I've made a list. One of my books is Trade Show Superheroes and Exhibiting Zombies. There's a bunch of lists from my blog. And, these don't do these in the trade show, things not to do. Number one thing actually is eating in a booth. People will turn away if they see someone eating a sandwich in the back of the booth, okay? Another thing is being on your cell phone in the booth, because that tells you, the visitor walking by, that someone a long ways away is more important than you who are right there. Sitting in the back on a chair with your arms folded, body language is really important at a trade show. And so if you're sitting down or you're kind of like got your hands in your pockets or your arms folded, it just shows that you're not, not really, it's kind of off-putting, even though you don't really put words to it. Body language is important, and all those things. Those are the kind of the dumb things that people do that don't even realize it. So we always advise, shows to have their staff trained, and there are good trainers out there that help advise them on how to act and how to ask the right questions. And they'll invest a few $1,000s in training their staff right before a show. So when the doors open, they're ready, and that it really pays off. That's one of the best things. Like, it goes back to the human interaction.
Yeah, Tim. It's kind of funny. I just had a conversation. I was at a conference, and I said, It's really easy to tell the difference between the business owner and staff sometimes. And, people are just like, hey, this is just my 9 to 5. Yeah, I can feel that energy quite often. I'll tell you, one of the things that drives me crazy, it's such a small thing, but when I'm talking with someone at a booth and they'll say, you guys, and I look around and I'm like, oh, me and who else are you talking about?
Who are you talking about?
Like, I feel in that moment when they say, well, we're just here to help you guys, sell more, blah, 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 blah. And man, it's like nails on a blackboard when they say you guys, but we're having a one-on-one conversation. I immediately feel like I'm just a face in a crowd or something like that, or a number to them.
I've been in stores where the guy behind the counter is going, hey boss, and he's just a verbal tick that people have. Sometimes they have these little things, and it's meant, I suppose, to make you feel important. But after about the 4th or 5th time, you go, why?
Yeah. So Tim, tell me about. So you've written a couple of books. Tell me what they are and how people can find them.
Well, they're both on Amazon. The first one is Trade Show Success, 14 Proven Steps to Take Your Trade Show Marketing to the Next Level. The other one is Trade Show Superheroes and Exhibiting Zombies, 66 Lists Making the Most of Your Trade Show Marketing. They are, like I say, both on Amazon. They're right around $20. They're both available on Kindle as well at a much lower cost. And, if you're in the trade show world and you do that, just reach out to me and I'll make sure you get a copy.
Yeah. So I wonder what would happen. So let's say you're a business startup, going full bore into the trade show world. I mean, it could really do some good stuff for you, I would imagine.
Yeah, there's I could come up with a number of examples. We did a booth for a company that was less than 6 months old about 5 months ago. And they went to a big show down in Anaheim, Natural Products Expo West. They had a little 10 by 10 booth. We built a custom kind of a reclaimed barn wood look with a bar and a backdrop. And they're out of Boulder. They do this thing called hop tea, which is interesting in that it tastes like beer, but there's no alcohol in it. And they got a couple of awards. They had great response. And they won an award of like one of the best new products, and they're off and running. And they say that being at that trade show and having that presence really made a difference.
Wow, that's very cool. How do you know a good trade show? Like if you're looking at your calendar and you're like, oof, should I go to this one? I don't know. How can you tell if a trade show is going to be a good investment?
Yeah, that's a tricky question because you don't want to get there and find out it's not the audience for you. I think a couple things to look at right off the top is are your competitors there? If you've got a lot of competitors there, it's probably a good show for you. That's not the full answer, but I think that if you know that you're competing against all these companies and they're at the show and they've been there for years and you're new, then that's probably a good show to be at. The other thing is take your time, I think. Go to a handful of shows, walk the show floor and ask questions, talk to the attendees, talk to the exhibitors, and that'll give you a much better sense. And of course, the final thing is, make sure you get all the details on the show from the organizers. They probably have a prospectus of sorts about what their audience is and the breakdown of the demographics and who's, the decision makers and all that sort of thing. So I think that is those are probably the main 3 things that you need to look at before you commit to a show.
Fantastic. Well, Tim Patterson, you are the trade show guy. You're on the web at TradeshowGuyBlog.com. And of course, your books, Trade Show Superheroes and Exhibiting Zombies. And the other one is Trade Show Success, both available in Amazon. Tim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.